The movie opens in the town of Arkham, an old place filled with witch legends, where everyone believes the dark, spooky forest to the west is evil. Hydrologist Ward Phillips is surveying the area for a dam development and comes across Lavinia performing a pagan ritual to prevent her mother's cancer from returning. Among the items she uses is her grandfather's compass. They chat for a while, and Lavinia starts to develop a crush on Ward. Lavinia then returns home on her horse, Comet, to the alpaca farm where her family moved after her mother's mastectomy to start a new life. Her father Nathan scolds her for leaving without notice, and her mother Teresa sends her to find her brother Benny, who is in the barn smoking in secret. When they return to the house, they find their little brother Jack looking into the well because Nathan told him it could show him the stars. Inside, Teresa is having an online meeting with her clients, but the internet connection is problematic. She asks Nathan to fix it before she loses clients, and Nathan promises to check the dish later. In the evening, Nathan convinces Teresa to get frisky again, which they haven't done since her surgery. Benny uses his computer to look at star maps with his dog Sam, but suddenly Sam starts whining and the computer screen malfunctions. A bright circle of light appears in the sky, and Jack hears weird noises. Scared, he calls for his parents, but they can't hear him, so Jack leaves his room. Sam is in the corridor growling at the noises. At that moment, the bright colors in the sky take over the farm, and there's an explosion of light that makes Jack scream. The light quickly disappears, and the family rushes to check on Jack, who is now unresponsive. Sam runs outside, whining at something, and the family discovers a bright meteorite has fallen on the farm. Nathan thinks it smells horrible and asks the family to stay inside. They consider taking Jack to the hospital, but it's an hour away. Suddenly, Jack snaps out of it and says his head hurts. Teresa wants to take him to bed, but he's too scared to return to his room, so she lets him sleep with her. The next morning, the mayor and the sheriff visit the meteorite, followed by Ward. Nathan describes what happened and complains about the smell, but no one else notices it. Ward confirms it's a meteorite, and the mayor asks the sheriff to take pictures, planning to send reporters later for tourism. Ward stays for a closer inspection, so Nathan sends Lavinia inside, disliking her behavior around Ward. Inside, Teresa teases Lavinia about her crush, embarrassing Lavinia and sending her to her room. Teresa tries to apologize, but Lavinia, wearing headphones, doesn't hear her. Humiliated, Lavinia cries and pinches her hand to distract herself with pain. Outside, Nathan interrupts the meteorite inspection to milk the alpacas. Ward asks if there's anyone else he can interview, so Nathan mentions Azra, a hippie squatter. Benny takes Ward to Azra's house, surrounded by cameras connected to solar batteries. Azra offers Ward a glass of water that looks brown. Ward, not smelling anything bad, blames it on rust from the pipes. Benny notes they've had well trouble before, but Ward thinks it shouldn't be happening this time of year and decides to run tests. A thunderstorm starts, and lightning hitting the meteor creates beautiful, colorful sparks. Later that evening, Ward is in his tent running tests when his radio suddenly stops working. He gets a call on his phone, but hears only static and a weird screech. Then he sees strange lights floating in the forest. His investigation is interrupted when his truck starts on its own and the radio plays music again without explanation. The next morning, Teresa and Nathan discover the meteorite has mysteriously disappeared. There are also some new flowers next to the well that neither of them planted. At that moment, the press arrives, and Nathan gives a very awkward interview that the family later watches on TV. While everyone laughs at the newscast, Teresa prepares dinner and falls into a weird trance, continuing to chop even after she accidentally cuts her fingers. Jack notices this and calls Nathan, but Teresa doesn't snap out of it until Nathan drags her outside to take her to the hospital. In the morning, Benny wakes up at dawn to feed the alpacas. When Lavinia wakes up later, she finds the alpacas loose, munching in the garden. Lavinia calls out Benny for not feeding them and doesn't believe him when he says he already did. Now Benny has to herd the alpacas back into the barn. Meanwhile, Jack keeps hearing a weird screech, prompting him to sit in the garden and whistle at the well, which now has even more flowers around it. When Lavinia asks what he's doing, Jack says the man in the well is talking to him. Lavinia suddenly feels sick and thinks she hears whistling from the well, so she runs inside. Nathan tries to call her, but Lavinia only hears static. Meanwhile, Jack is drawing a weird creature in his notebook when he hears a noise from the well. He looks closer and discovers a weird glowing organism that releases a huge flash of colorful light, and a bright insect with the same colors flies out. Inside the house, The electronics begin failing while Lavinia is doing the dishes, including the knife with her mother's blood. Suddenly, the colorful light glows for a second, and bloody water begins filling the sink. Lavinia gets another call from her dad, but it's static again, and the noise makes her run to the bathroom to throw up. Ward arrives to talk about water contamination, but Lavinia tells him to leave because she isn't feeling well. Ward notices Jack standing in the garden giggling, and the kid says he's playing with his friends. Ward then visits Azra, who has lost his cat and swears there are aliens under his floor, proving it by playing a recording of the static and screech. Ward blames the noises on geothermal activity, but Ezra insists it's aliens from the meteorite, now everywhere, in the static and the moisture. In the evening, Teresa and Nathan are on their way home when they encounter a monstrous creature that looks like a deformed version of Ezra's cat. Nathan stops the car in time, and the creature runs away. Teresa tries to call Lavinia to check on everyone, but she left her phone in the living room. Meanwhile, Jack and Sam watch the well, which starts to glow and screech. Sam growls at it and then attacks, disappearing into it. Lavinia tries to ignore the screech and leaves her room when she hears a weird noise from Benny's room. She finds his computer showing strange images that make her feel sick. The computer goes off, and Benny returns, saying he got lost in the forest, which never happens because he knows the area well. Lavinia's phone rings, but it's only static again. Jack stands outside like a doll when Teresa and Nathan arrive, and Nathan scolds Benny and Teresa with uncharacteristic rage. He's angry they left Jack outside alone, and the alpacas are loose when they should be in the barn. Benny swears he sent them to the barn, but Nathan doesn't believe him and goes to herd them himself while looking for Sam. The dog doesn't show up, and when Nathan asks the kids, Lavinia says that whatever came with the meteorite took Sam. Nathan can't believe they're blaming imaginary aliens and freaks out, talking strangely. Lavinia then tells Benny they need to leave. Jack stays the night with Teresa again and keeps drawing weird creatures in his notebook. Nathan tries to shower and notices a weird mark on his arm that makes him lose hair, and when he looks down, he finds a strange blob blocking the drain. When Nathan picks up the blob, it stings his hand, causing him to drop it, and it escapes through the drain. Nathan tells his wife that the weird smell is still around, though no one else can smell it. He thinks it smells like a cancer ward and suspects it might be coming from Sam's body. But Jack interrupts, saying Sam is now with Grandpa, who died years ago. The next morning, Nathan is delighted to discover all his fruits and vegetables are ready to be harvested earlier than expected. Teresa is trying to work and has internet trouble again, but when she goes to ask Nathan to fix the dish, she finds him violently freaking out because his vegetables taste horrible. Weirded out by his reaction, Teresa decides to rest, and Nathan goes to the living room to drink and watch TV instead of fixing the dish. He checks his arm and notices a weird crust forming on his skin, so he tries rubbing whiskey on it, but nothing happens. Suddenly, the TV starts showing those bright colors. In the evening, Lavinia begins packing to leave, but when she finds her copy of the Necronomicon, she decides to try a ritual to protect her family, offering her blood and ending up with many wounds. Meanwhile, Jack wakes up to the screech and finds Nathan sleeping in front of the TV, which is showing strange glowing images. Jack joins Benny outside to watch the glowing light above the farm, and now the entire garden is filled with flowers. The brothers hear a noise from the barn and find the color has fused all their alpacas into one giant terrifying monster. The boys run away as Teresa comes out to see what's happening, rushing to pick up Jack. Benny manages to get away, but the color hits Teresa and Jack, fusing them into another creepy creature. Nathan comes out and calmly asks Benny to help him drag the creature into the house. They try to call 911, but the phone isn't working. When Lavinia joins them, she screams at the sight of what happened to her family. In the morning, the farm is surrounded by a purple fog. Nathan tries to use the car, but it isn't working, making him freak out again. Benny and Lavinia stay by their mother's side, but the creature keeps whining in pain, and they discover sunlight burns its skin. When Nathan returns, he helps the siblings take the creature to the attic, and they hear the screech again. Benny hears noises from the barn, so Nathan grabs a shotgun and checks on the alpacas. All the animals have fused into a terrifying monster, and Nathan shoots every alpaca head he can see to protect his family. Afterward, he breaks down, realizing his wife and son will become monsters too. Minutes later, Nathan asks his children to leave the attics so he can euthanize the creature. However, he can't bring himself to shoot something that still looks like his wife, and he kisses Teresa on the lips despite the goo on them. Meanwhile, Ward is at town hall trying to stop the dam project due to contamination, but the mayor refuses to hear him out, not wanting to lose valuable contracts. On his way out, Ward is called by the sheriff, who shows him all the dead animals found near Nathan's farm. There are birds, rabbits, and even a cat, and Ward thinks it looks like radiation burns. In the evening, Nathan returns to the living room to watch more glowing TV while Benny and Lavinia try to saddle Comet to leave. However, the horse has purple eyes and freaks out, pushing Lavinia off and running away. Suddenly, Benny hears Sam's whining from the well and decides to go down to rescue him, ignoring Lavinia's warnings. The awful smell hits Benny, and the collar appears at the bottom of the well, grabbing and assimilating him. Lavinia barely has time to grieve because Nathan shows up behaving crazily again. He violently grabs Lavinia, drags her into the house, and locks her in the attic, scolding her for not behaving. Nathan goes to the living room to watch the glowing TV while hallucinating that his wife is there with him, and the screen is showing their favorite movie. Lavinia discovers that Teresa and Jack have become a full-fledged violent monster just as Ward and the sheriff arrive at the house. They see Nathan behaving oddly, scratching his spreading rash, and then hear Lavinia scream. They run upstairs and force the door open to find the monster about to eat Lavinia. The sheriff hesitates to shoot, so Nathan does it first, stating this thing isn't his family, and shoots twice, hitting both Teresa's and Jack's heads. Ward picks up Lavinia, who is covered in pink blood, and tries to take her to his car, but the color is emanating from the well in huge rays that block the way. Nathan sees this and raises his shotgun to shoot at the light, but the sheriff thinks Nathan is aiming at Ward and shoots Nathan first, killing him. Lavinia rushes to her dad's side as the sheriff suggests evacuating the house, but Lavinia refuses, pointing out the color won't let them. At that moment, they hear the screech coming from Ezra's house, so Ward and the sheriff go to check on him. They hear a voice speaking, but it's just a recording Ezra left behind. Ezra's body is desiccated, and the recording explains that the color is trying to remake Earth into something like its home world. Ward sees something strange moving on the security cameras as they go off one by one, and the sheriff notices Ezra's forehead glowing and opening. Another explosion of color seems imminent, so the men leave the house, but a mutated tree captures and kills the sheriff on their way out. Ward runs back to the farm and finds Lavinia standing in front of the well, calling it all beautiful. When she opens her eyes, they're purple, and her forehead starts glowing, showing Ward a vision of the Colors World, a psychedelic exoplanet inhabited by tentacled alien entities. Terrified, Ward pushes Lavinia away to stop the vision and falls to the ground, where the grass is slowly becoming tentacles too. The color begins unraveling at the well, and Lavinia disintegrates as she receives the light with open arms. Ward feels his body being affected and runs inside the house, finding a mutated Nathan talking with Lavinia's voice. With a flash of light, the rest of the family appears as well. Nathan attacks Ward to protect them, prompting Ward to kick him away before running to hide in the wine cellar, locking the door behind him. Ward covers his ears as the screech grows louder and more painful, and all the bodies upstairs disintegrate as the color explodes, destroying the building. Moments later, Ward emerges from the cellar to find everything covered in gray ash. The well remains intact, and Lavinia's compass lies on the ground, waiting to be rescued. Years later, Ward still visits the area as part of the project behind the dam that now covers a former farm. He keeps Lavinia's compass with him, but refuses to ever drink the water.